Hi everyone, my name is Gideon and very welcome to this episode of Set to Ripple. In today's episode I am down in a bank in the city at a company called Bodyscan with Phil Chant, founder of Bodyscan. Phil, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I appreciate it to do this interview. It's also our first interview on Set to Ripple. Thank you very much. Phil, I was really excited when I found the company online.
That's good.
Because it does something specifically what I wanted for the series.
Right.
How did you come up with that idea?
I actually discovered Dexa as a consumer, like you, when I lived in Australia, and I used to have a bit of a belly, and I wanted to get rid of it. I signed up with a personal trainer, and I just wanted a good, accurate way of monitoring my progress. So Dexa became my motivation, if you like. I had a scan every 3 months and I would track my progress, so I could see my fat going down, I could see my muscle going up, which was unusual and motivating. So Dexa was really my certainty that something was happening when maybe the mirror or certainly the scale just wasn't maybe showing any difference.
And that's one thing that I want to kind of focus on as well with Set to Ripple, is that scales especially also with ladies, depending on where they are on the cycle, like it's 1 or 2 kilograms, why would you be this cruel to subject yourself to that? And what kind of sports did you do or what did you do to drop the belly?
I'm a pretty inactive person, actually.
Right?
Yeah, I've never been particularly sporting. No, I did, my personal story is I cut my carbs and I did a thing called intermittent fasting. Okay. So there are many different types of intermittent fasting, but I did a version called Eat, Stop, Eat, where I would stop eating. I wouldn't eat for 2 24-hour periods a week, and I put muscle on and I lost fat at the same time. So for me it worked great. I became evangelical about it. Doesn't work for everyone, but if you go and Google, look on YouTube, you'll find lots of people who do it.
Right. And there's another thing I wanted to ask you. So I asked you just before we started recording, your typical customer, are they people that have to feel that they have to lose a fair bit of weight, or are they more like athletes wanting to lose like the extra 2 or 3% wanting to monitor that closely?
I thought when I started the business that I would be very much dealing with the fitness community, so clients of personal trainers, athletes, bodybuilders, all that kind of thing. And it just didn't happen that way. My average client is average to overweight. Right. So everyone is looking, every body scan client has something in common, and that is they are looking to improve their body composition. But the typical client is about 37, 38 years old, 70 to 80% men, and typically looking to lose a fair amount of fat.
Someone that works in an office.
Someone that works in an office, sedentary, especially here in the city, so a lot of sedentary people. And most people are pretty surprised by how much fat they're carrying. I say to every client that just by virtue of you being here, you are a typical body scan client. So I have people who are so big they don't fit on the table. I have a few bodybuilders. I have people who are very into their fitness and sport. But on balance, I'd say that people are a little bit overweight.
Correct. Okay. And then, how long have you been running?
So operating for just over 2 years. So started in January. What are we now? 2017. So January 2015. So 2 full years in Marylebone. But here in the city only since November last year. So 6 months or so.
And 2 years is enough time to have a couple of clients pop up into your head into wow, they've done an amazing transformation.
Yeah, we've had some really good results. Ketogenic diet has been one of the best. Every time I get a client who's really got some amazing results, and I tend to put it on the blog, just out of interest. I'm not siding with it. I'm not saying it's good. Anyone should follow it, but just interesting. So ketogenic, we have quite a few people doing. Certainly get a lot of fat loss with ketogenic diet with minimal muscle loss. Have had a slow carb diet, pretty good fat loss as well. But a lot of people go in the wrong direction. So a lot of people gain too much fat when they try and gain muscle, they lose too much muscle when they try and lose fat, or just do nothing.
And part of it is tracking it, so that you know what works, isn't it?
Exactly. So the whole point of coming back, I say to every client, come back in 3 to 4 months, not 6 months, 8, 9 months, 12 months. because you could go off at a tangent. We had one guy who lost 7.5 kilograms of weight, and 7 was muscle. So
yeah, which is not good.
So he was fatter than when he started.
Yeah. And that's when you start talking about skinny fat and these things that you read about.
Yeah, well, he was he crashed his calories. So people, typically, the overweight person tends to crash their calories, their body goes into starvation mode, they lose the muscle and not the fat.
Literally waste away.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you, that's very helpful.
All right.
I guess, for me, what I'd like to get out of it is not dissimilar to your customers,
right,
which is work in an office. One day you just realise, what the hell have we been doing?
Mm-hmm.
You start to put up on a little bit choppy.
Yeah.
And it's obviously not critical yet, but like why wait until you have to lose 20? You can lose 5 now.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the...
So you're on a ketogenic?
I started last week, and unfortunately I've dropped 2 kilos already, so the effect won't be that much.
Right.
But yeah, I'm here now.
Okay. And so when so if you're ketogenic, what is the ratio? Like, what's your percentage of carbs?
So I'm trying to go for about 65% fat, 5% carbs, and then what is the balance? 25% protein. The rest protein.
Okay. That doesn't sound a huge amount of fat.
It's just under 70,
okay.
And the reason why I've done that is that because normally you would read 70 fat and then the rest made up of carbs and protein. The reason why I went with that ratio is that I worked out my protein requirement like 1.5 gram per kilogram of body weight, and then I extrapolated the rest from there.
Right.
There's a little bit less fat than always, but I started on last Monday, and I've got keto sticks and hit ketosis around Thursday. So feels amazing.
Right.
The interesting thing I find is when I speak to people at the office is that, aren't you hungry? How can you eat that much fat? It's like, you're never hungry.
Right.
You're never hungry because your body just goes along.
So do you don't calorie count? You just get satiated on them.
Well, I use my fitness pal, so because the calories count automatically, it's right there in your face. You do see it, but I'm not overly worried about it. But I do check the ratios very, very closely.
Right. Okay, so ready for the baseline?
Yeah.
Yeah. Should we do it?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll take your weight and your height and get you on the table.
Yes.
All right.
So after stripping down and having my height and weight taken, he made sure I was comfortable on the table and just kind of ran me through how it was going to work. The scanner that they use is called a Dexa scanner. So in the medical application for it, it is used to test for osteoporosis or brittle bones. And the scan itself takes about 4 minutes. I think something worth mentioning is that because it's not like an MRI scan where it's an enclosed space that you get pushed into, it doesn't feel claustrophobic. It's really comfortable. You just lay there still with your eyes closed for 4 minutes and then it's all done.
Okay, so we've had the Dexa scan and this is the report. And the first thing we see getting on the front page is the colour image of your body. The orangey gold stuff is fat, the red is lean mass and muscle, and the blue is bone. So clearly you can see in outline, in silhouette, where you've got fat around the waist area, which is what we expect for a guy, around the tops of the thighs and also down the legs. And then the table underneath here now starts to put some numbers and quantify.
In the previous episode, I ranted a fair bit about the BMI not being an accurate measure. And this is because it combines your fat and your lean mass into a single measure. And that means that any changes to either of these gets reflected through into the BMI number. And it just muddles it up. So you don't really know whether you're losing fat, losing muscle, gaining muscle, losing fat. You don't know what's going on. And that is why Bodyscan is so good. It manages, because of the scan being accurate, it manages to split the BMI into its 2 main constituent parts, which is the FMI and the LMI, so your fat mass index and your lean mass index, which means that this can now be tracked completely independently from each other, and you know exactly where the changes in your body happens. You can also compare this against the 2,000, for men it's about 2,000 people that Phil has scanned over the years. And for me, that means I sit for my fat mass index on the 65th percentile, which means that I am carrying more fat for my height than 65% of people here scanned. And in terms of lean mass, it's actually much worse news. I am the 20th percentile, which means that 80% of the guys have more muscle for their height than I do. Now, something that was really useful is the fact that Phil sits with you and he runs a couple of what-if scenarios. And we played around a bit, and we decided that realistically I can move myself into the 25th percentile for my fat mass index, and then with a fair bit of effort I can get myself into an average position for muscle mass. Now, to achieve this, I will need to lose 6.5 kilograms of fat and gain 6 kilograms of muscle. Now, that just underscores the point for me that body weight is a completely redundant measure, as let's say I did both of those things at the same time, my body weight, my total body would hardly change at all. So yeah, just again to make the point. What would you say is a good target based on your research in terms of lean mass gain in 12 weeks?
Well, okay, interesting. You certainly can put on muscle and lose fat at the same time. You can put on muscle in a deficit. Okay. But what I would say to you is that most people who try and do both do neither.
Yeah.
So if you go away and try and lose fat, you'll tend to lose a lot of muscle with it. If you go away and try and put on muscle, you put on fat with it. So I would concentrate on one, but certainly to maintain your muscle, which is what it's all about. You don't want to lose muscle. To maintain your muscle, you do want to be doing resistance-based work, okay, weights-based work. But I see no reason why you shouldn't lose
6 kilos. 500 grams a week.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you suggest I try to lose the target of 6 kilograms, maintain my lean mass, and then once I've dropped that, then focus on some muscle.
Yeah,
muscle.
which is a kind of, there's a lot of people who disagree with that, and I've seen it done simultaneously.
Yeah.
I've done it simultaneously.
Yeah.
Lots of people who will lose fat and gain muscle at the same time, but it tends to happen by luck rather than design.
Yeah.
So I would just suggest focusing on the fat loss on its own, and maintaining muscle mass during that period.
Now, one question that a lot of watchers might have is whether it is worth paying the money for a body scan. And my answer is absolutely yes. And there are two reasons why I say it. Is the first one, without a Dexa scan, it is impossible to get this level of accurate data that is repeatable and therefore comparable to other people in the group and to yourself over the course of time. Secondly, it also helps to inform your principles and priorities that you want to set going forward. And one thing that really struck me, what Phil was quite serious about, is that it makes sense to focus on one area at a time. And I have decided to focus on losing fat. So the target for me is to move myself into the 25th percentile by losing 6.5 kilograms of fat over the next 12 weeks. Which means that in terms of muscle mass, I just want to keep that the same. I'm not interested in gaining it, but I just want to make sure that I don't lose anything. I've been doing a lot of reading recently about not focusing on the results too much at the beginning, but really defining the processes that you think will deliver those results. And in terms of changing my fat percentage, I want to stick to the ketogenic diet, which I've spoken about before. And then as far as muscle is concerned, I'm just going to follow a 5x5 training program, which is focusing on strength, not on muscle size at all. Then thirdly, we are all guilty of measuring results way too often instead of just focusing on the process very specifically. So for the ketogenic diet, which is one of the two processes, I am going to measure closely the ratio of my macronutrients. So fat, protein and carbs I'm going to measure daily. I want to keep that at 65-35, and I use an app for that called MyFitnessPal, which I will do a whole episode on at a later stage. The second process indicator that I'm going to monitor daily is my ketone levels in my blood. So you can either use a urine test called keto sticks, or alternatively a blood test that is a little bit more expensive but much more accurate. And I'll be doing an episode on that as well at a later stage. The third one I'm not too worried about. It's calories. I don't really count calories, but you just want to be kind of aware of roughly how much you take in, just to make sure that you don't overeat. There's this myth online amongst people that start out on ketogenic diets that you can eat absolutely as much fat and protein as you want. And that's not completely true. If you eat more than your body needs, then you will not be shifting any fat. And the flip side is also true. If you cut your calories way too low, then your body will go into starvation mode, and you will lose muscle mass, which is the last thing that you want. For the next process, the strength training process, I will be checking two things. The first is I'll be trying to train 3 times a week, which is, I think, completely doable. And of course, sometimes you're tired or you're busy at work and it drops below that, but that's at least what I'll be aiming for. And then lastly, one thing with strength training is that you really need to be sure that your last 2 reps is everything that you had. It's about intensity. And if I can answer this question hand on heart, then I know that I've put in a good effort. Then obviously at some point you want to measure the results, and I suggest 2 things. To tell people not to weigh themselves at all is not going to work, but at least try not to do it every day, because it fluctuates so much, and it's influenced by so many things that if you weigh yourself every day, you're just going to either frustrate yourself or pat yourself on the back way too quickly. So if you want to do it every 2 weeks, or leave it out completely. But the absolute gold standard that you really need to measure yourself with is something like a Dexa scan. I'm going to do that every 3 months, and just so that I know exactly whether it is fat or muscle mass that is changing due to the things that I'm doing. Now, I guess if you do all these things conscientiously, you eat properly, and you go to the gym, and you hit your results, then well done. It feels good. But if it doesn't, I don't think there's much value in beating yourself up about it. The approach that I'm taking is I will look at the results that I got out, and then you adjust the processes based on that. So you either fail to stick to the processes. So for example, if you go to the gym once a week and you don't get stronger, strange enough, that's not very surprising. Or alternatively, you might feel that you followed all the processes exactly right and still didn't see the results. And then it might be that you chose the wrong processes in the first place, or that you just react to it in different ways or in a slower way than the next person. And as long as you stick to trying to get to a point where you can enjoy this and focus on the learning instead of being absolutely stuck on the results, then it's a much different feeling if you do it like that. And I think that learning about your body and how you react to changes that you make is much more valuable than what you look like in a mirror. I mean, if that's that important to you, that will come later anyway. As long as you enjoy it and really focus on learning more about it, it will be much more sustainable as well. Right, guys, there you have it. I'm quite excited about it makes a big difference if you see the numbers right in front of you, instead of just researching and going, oh, is that how it works? If you see the numbers in front of you and you see an image of yourself, it makes it almost tangible and gives you a very specific target. So, Phil, thank you very much for that. That's it for this week, guys. I'm really excited. I will report back to you next week about something else, and then we'll be back with Phil hopefully in 3 months' time to see if it worked. See you guys next time. Cheers. Bye.